Tonight on the Fanatic Forum, we're going to delve into the darker side of the digital realm because we're going to talk about our favorite horror movie video games or horror video games. Either way, it's going to get a little spooky. And we're going to do that right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Prime Fanatic and host, George Buehler. Hope everybody's having a wonderful week so far, and it's finally Friday and winding down. And unfortunately, winding down to the end of spooky season because Halloween is Tuesday. Well, I know, we're getting down to the end there, but we still got a good weekend ahead of us here, so you can cram in all the spooky movies you can, go to Halloween parties, truck or treats, all that good stuff here. But tonight on the Fanatic Forum, we are going to be discussing our favorite horror video games. So these could be, of course, any time period you want, starting from Atari all the way to the current systems. Doesn't matter, PC, whatever. We're going all across the board here. Want to know what some of your favorites are. We've heard from you guys, some of you already. So we're going to talk about some of those. Of course, we got some new comics to talk about. All sort of, and you got to know what else we're going to talk about here, because we've got my brother from another mother here, my junior fanatic, the newly dubbed warrior poet himself, Mr. Seth Moore. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, and I do have to make one small correction. In our Bill and my previous media endeavor, I was a warrior poet. Then it's just more of a holdover, a belated name.
It is, yeah. You have donned the moniker once before. That is true.
Yeah. I just like giving myself random names and titles throughout the years. You know, maybe some of them stick.
You know what? I mean, that's totally fine.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I get to write my own story. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, warrior poet. I mean, it's like, let's say it was Conan and then you. So that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. What better company?
I'm down with that. So yeah. So how you doing, brother?
I am fantastic. I am feeling good. I've been looking forward to talking about horror video games. It was hard coming up with like a hard list of like specific ones that I wanted to talk about. Now, even after I gave you the list, there's other ones that it's like, oh man, I should have picked this one or that one or that one or that one. But yeah, we're gonna have So welcome to hour 1 of the Fanatic Forum of maybe 7 or 8. So
yeah. Exactly here. But of course,
and if you can hear that, by the way, that is a dog toy. I am not passing gas. It's a pheasant that quacks, and Moxley is chewing it. So,
I didn't hear that. Pepper was just going ham on one of her toys here earlier. We were just sitting there chatting, and she's just making all kinds of noise, and she's just the vicious hunter of a pipe cleaner that we curl around her fingers, and makes little curly cues. So
yeah,
vicious hunter. So,
but yeah, the predators of the animal kingdom.
Exactly. Interesting segue. We should say predators, because have you seen the teaser for the new Hulu thing coming very soon?
I saw you posted there. I saw the poster. I haven't seen is there an actual video teaser of it yet, or is it just man?
The poster's all we have right
now. This is exciting me because I love this idea. I was thinking for years I had thought that one of the best things that you could do with a predator is just drop them in various points in history and see how they would happen. And it seems like finally, like, someone listened to me. You're welcome, Hulu or Fox or whoever's producing it now.
Yeah, I guess. Well, it's all
right. Yeah,
they're all together now. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Predator in World War I is basically what it's looking like. It's got like the poster's just the alien, the Predator thing. I'd hesitate to call it a Yajuda or however the comics.
Yautja.
Yautja.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not. I followed some of the Dark Horse comics, but since it was never officially mentioned in any of the movies, then it was kind of it's kind of ambiguous and nebulous still to me in that one. But
I'm right there with you. I just found out recently, like, I mean, last several months, that that's what the race of the predator. Like for years, we had no idea what you actually call. We just call them predators. You
right,
know,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, they have a race name, and it's Yautja. Yeah,
Yautja.
so Yaut.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so it's very very tribal sounding. It's like, okay, I like it. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I
yeah,
can't wait to see that movie because I thought Prey was fantastic.
yeah, and it's Dan Trachtenberg who did Prey. And this one's called No Man's Land. And yeah, the poster I've posted on the Fanatic Forum and Friends of the Fanatic Forum pages, respectively.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's the Predator is approaching. Like you've seen Wonder Woman, like basically the No Man's Land and,
Oh yeah,
the bridge of warfare between both sides, the Axis and the Allies. And yeah, so basically a Predator is approaching like the German side, and like he's partially cloaks, like he's uncloaking as he's walking towards them. There's like a flare lit up above seeing this, and the soldiers barely see this guy, and he's just like this. He's walking towards him like, okay, lunchtime. Yeah,
yeah. This is gonna be
uh,
fantastic.
yeah. And of course, tons of fans have said we want a Predator in feudal Japan, like Predator versus a samurai. People
Yeah,
have
a
been saying that.
predator versus a samurai would be fantastic. You drop a predator in ancient Rome, and to see what happens against, maybe gladiators or a Roman
Yeah,
legion,
he's stuck in the
something like that.
Colosseum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he's under a coliseum maybe because like
yeah.
or yeah, infinite
Infinite.
possibilities, and I will see every one of them.
Yeah, so that was the best thing about the Dark Horse comics is that they just okay, let's what's a predator like in this time period, or let's put a predator in Siberian Russia on accident. And so like he's
Yeah,
freaking out because they hate the cold. So it's like he's not as predatory as he normally is because like he's freezing, and
right.
something like that. But he still managed to kill a whole bunch of other Russians. So
Yeah.
don't worry, there's still out.
Yeah, he's still dangerous.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was they've done all kinds of interesting storylines, and now that Marvel's got it, they're doing good too. They did 2 volumes. One was a 6 issue. The second volume was 5 issues, and then now they're doing the Predator versus Wolverine crossover, which issue 2 of
Oh.
that is out right now, which I will be talking about that in just a moment. So yeah, a little teaser there, but. They haven't teased any because, of course, now Marvel has 20th Century Fox. So basically, they have comics for Predator, Alien, and Planet of the Apes. There has been no crossover yet between Alien and Predator. There's been no talk of it, but it has to be coming in the near future. So,
Yeah, that they definitely pull that one in at some point. They'd have to.
yeah, uh, the first 2 volumes they did for Predator were really good. The second volume, of course, is a sequel to the first one. So you kind of have to read the first one, know a little bit what's going on.
Right, right.
The second volume, the hero that makes it out of the first one, she meets up, kind of gets stranded on a planet, kind of like the similar like the Adrian Brody Predator, where they're all on the hunting
Yeah,
ground.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
really liked that one. I know a bunch of people
I
didn't,
did
but
too. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people were dismissive, like, I don't know about Adrian Brody. I was like, dude, he was ripped in that movie. He looked
Yeah,
bored. So it's like, shut.
right.
That was an awesome movie.
Yeah.
But anywho, similar concept where like she's on a planet and realizes that there's a bunch of other soldiers on the planet. But here's the catch: there's soldiers that were essentially plucked at different time periods and essentially put in like hyper sleep. And then when the predators decide they want to thaw them out and use them, they do it. So then we've got guys that like, this one dude's like, well, I thought it was 1972, like he's still in Vietnam. And then like this
Yeah.
one guy was in Desert Storm, and then these people were in, you know, uh, you know, Kuwait, and these people were in 2020 thing or something like that. And then, like, well, what year is it now? It's 25 such such. So and there's some people like, why have you only been asleep for 6 months? Sort of thing like that. So it's but all these soldiers are handpicked. Now they weren't like plucked for different time periods. Basically, they were just like they just were saved for later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Predators haven't done time travel just yet. They just get hype. They're really good when it comes to freezing and preserving things.
Right. They're just basically like trying to make their own little game preserve,
Yeah.
sort of like, yeah, stocking the lake, as it were, if we were fish.
Yes, and so that's kind of exactly what the second volume was. So yeah, awesome series. So yeah, I've so far I highly recommend any of the Predator stuff that Marvel's put out recently. And that brings us to our next thing here. Because let's talk comics.
Comics.
Good bunch of stuff here for you. So we'll have one selection from DC. We had, of course, there was some good stuff. We had another issue, The Flash, come out. I like the Cy Spurrier, Mike Diodato Jr. combination. I wasn't sure how Mike would do with The Flash because he's much more of a darker sort of artist, and it gives it a little bit more of a serious tone, but it works. I like it. And of course, the new villain they're introducing is kind of cool, so it works with the darker tone too. And of course, it's Wally, so you may appreciate that because Wally's
I, I'm
cool.
I'm a Wally guy. Yeah, Wally was the Flash that I grew up on.
Yeah.
And especially he was the Ginger Flash. Just like Guy Gardner was my Green Lantern. He's the Ginger Green Lantern. And,
Speaking of which, you know how DC puts out anthologies sometimes around the holidays.
yeah.
There's a Valentine's one that's in the January solicitations, and so it's a Valentine's themed anthology. How to Lose a Guy Gardner in 10 Days.
Yeah, go ahead and put me down for one of them.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wow.
Thank you, thank you. I think
Wow.
when I was in elementary school, I actually even went to the barber with an issue of Guy Gardner saying, "I want the bowl." I requested a bowl haircut. I'm not making that up. I requested a bowl haircut because I loved Guy Gardner so much.
Talk about BNC, man. I love this. I love this. Straight up issues joining us tonight. What's going on, brothers? The Predators Han Soloed people, put them in carbonite. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly what they did. Yeah. Oh man, so that's some good stuff. All right, so let's talk comics here. So,
yes.
of course, DC is kind of getting back in with the golden age. We've already got a Jay Garrick comic book that's out. Last week we had a Wesley Dodds The Sandman come out, which I enjoyed that one. This week we've got Alan Scott Green Lantern's got a mini series out, but more importantly, we have a facsimile reprint of All American Comics
Ooh.
number 16, which was the very first appearance of Alan Scott Green Lantern, the birth of the Green Lantern character, period. This is from 1939, folks. But the cool thing about this facsimile is that not only does it have the main story in there, which is tells the tale of the Green Lantern, how that all came about, but all the other comics that were involved with All American Comics number 16 are in here. So there's like a couple of
And it's got the ads
stories,
and everything too, right?
the ads,
Like
everything.
it's yeah. Other than the cover price, and I'm maybe some indicia work like inside the front cover. It's a straight up reprint
It
of the
really
original.
is.
Yeah, I love that Marvel and DC are both starting to do these now because they're letting people fill in gaps of key issues without having to break the bank. It's something they should have done a
Exactly.
long time ago, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's,
I
that's
think
what happened.
Image even kind of gave them the idea, didn't they, with those Image
Sure did.
firsts?
Sure
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there's of course everybody's been doing that, some kind of reprints anyway. But
right,
yeah, so it's nice to see, it's really interesting though just to have just a timepiece like this because you get to see
right,
how these books really were because in the early days of comic books we didn't have the monthly books; they were quarterly. Or some were, some may have been monthly, but usually if they were monthly, it was an anthology book. So you were getting like 6 to 8 different comics in one volume here. Uh,
right.
and
Yeah, it was a big deal, like, when Action Comics was an anthology book, but then when you had Superman, that was all that was in that one. That was the big deal. That was why that was important.
yeah, same with
Yeah.
Batman number one. Yeah, because Batman
Right.
started in Detective Comics, but of course, if you got a original Detective 27, you have the Batman story in there. And then you have some other detective, some
Right.
other cop stories and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, All American Comics is a true anthology because you've got let's say cartoony Mutt and Jeff kind of stuff. You've got some like war comics. I think there's another cop or police story in here as well. So you got all kinds of stuff in here. So it's
Yeah.
just an interesting piece of history that you can get now for only $7, as opposed to probably paying thousands of dollars for
Yeah,
the thing.
I'm sure. Yeah, because that's a golden age book, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's well past bronze.
Yeah, 1939, baby. That's definitely the golden age.
Yeah. And
So
what killed me with those books too is that, like, so that one would be like the first appearance of the Alan Scott Green Lantern. But
yeah,
like, you know how with Detective 27, like Batman was on the cover of that one, but he
mhm,
may not have been on the cover of 28 or 29. Like,
right.
yeah, he might not have proven popular until after a couple of the letters pages came in and or the sales figures even. But
That's an excellent point. Yeah, because a lot of times these characters were invented as like Spider-Man was invented as a last-ditch effort. Batman was a
mhm,
last-ditch effort. Where it's kind of like, well, we don't know if these guys are going to work. Let's just throw in these books here, and if they take off, cool. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Detective 27, first appearance of Batman.
right.
Detective 28, on the other hand, no Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
not even in the book, I don't think, at
no,
all.
no, he's
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah, but that's
No.
the thing is that of course, this was sales figures took a lot longer to come in. Sometimes it was months before sales figures came in. So usually you were already working on your next book, and you didn't know if your last ditch effort, you throw it against the wall, see if it sticks, idea worked until maybe a
Right.
month later. So yeah, just it was
Yeah.
weird time, man. It's hard for us to fathom how now we have such instant gratification, instant communication with everything. So it's like,
Exactly. Yeah. You're finding out like TV ratings on quarter hours, which blows my mind. But yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. Bill Doris has joined us in here. Hello, Bill. Good to see you, sir. Uh,
Bill, my
Alan Scott.
co-host.
Alan Scott, Green Lantern from Kingdom Come was the coolest. Yeah, Kingdom
Oh
Come's
yeah, Alan
pretty cool,
Scott was
by the
awesome.
way.
Kingdom Come is one of the greatest books in comics. Just like the
Yeah,
artwork and the story. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
that one's hard to beat.
Yeah, that's classic PC. A
Yeah.
couple of Marvel selections here. First off, another anthology here: Marvel Zombies, Black, White, and Blood. So
They're still making Marvel Zombies books. Dang.
yeah, well, they haven't done one in a while here, but yeah, this is of course following in with the Black, White, and Red, or Black, White, and Blood, depending on the character. Just a fun anthology, and the artwork, of course, is all only in shades of red, white, and gray, so or black or whatever else. But yeah, this one you get stories by Garth Ennis and Rachel Slott, so that's awesome.
A Garth
Alex,
Ennis Marvel Zombie story. That's cool.
and it's Daredevil is the main character. So Garth Ennis doing a Daredevil story, zombie style.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah. If that doesn't get you to read the book right there, then I'll tell you that.
Right.
Also, you got Alex Segura and Javi Fernandez, Ashley Allen and Justin Mason, which they've got Alex Segura and Javi Fernandez. They've got a Spider-Man story, and it is heartbreaking. Oh, it's so good, but it's
His
heartbreaking.
story was already heartbreaking in the original Marvel Zombies. Like that one gotcha.
Yeah, it's rough. It's in similar fashion. It's rough, and then the third story is a Moon Knight story, which is also equally kind of rough, but also got a nice twist to it too. But yeah, it's the Ashley
Okay.
Allen, Justin Mason one. But yeah, so three stories in this volume here. Lots of cool variant covers as well. But I think this is like going to be a 5-issue series. But yeah, just fun anthology stuff, all in the Marvel Zombies fashion there. So perfect
Right
time
on.
for Halloween. And as we teased earlier, issue number 2 of Predator versus Wolverine.
Yeah, that looks cool as hell. That I never thought they would have like made a great team up together, but yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And the best gimmick on this one is basically the story, obviously, is in the modern day. Excuse me. Story starts in the modern day where basically the Predator's attacking Logan. They've been fighting it out, and Logan is losing. And then you start flashing back, and the Wolverine already is aware of this, but the reader becomes slowly aware that Wolverine and the Predator have tackled multiple times in their history. Logan remembers some of them, not all of them, especially during the Weapon X times. Those are a little fuzzy. But yeah, they've had an ongoing rivalry for a very long time.
That's cool and
Specifically,
it makes sense for Wolverine's character.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and specifically, there's one particular because he's tangled with a lot of predators, but there's one in particular that they've had an ongoing rivalry, and so that's where they kind of take us back and forth in the modern day. And then we get different time periods. So we get like issue 2 is tackling where he's in I can't remember the organization that he was with, but basically it's like him and Sabretooth and Maverick and all those kind of guys.
Oh yeah, crap, I can't.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Yeah, like black. They're like Black Talon or Black something. I don't know,
right,
something '90s and sinister sounding, but they're military predators.
right, yeah. They were a Wetworks group, and
Yeah, yeah. But basically all pre Weapon X stuff
right.
because yeah. Anywho, but yeah. So basically that's where the issue 2 ends is kind of right at the tip of the Weapon X period of Wolverine's life. So
That's cool.
yeah. So I will put you down for both those issues, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, okay. I didn't want to start if I couldn't get the first one, but yeah, if you can give me the first one, that we're definitely
Yeah,
done.
I'm. You may get a either a Scotty Young or a Peach Momoko cover because there may not be much selection
Don't
left.
care.
But yeah, but the book inside is awesome. But the Peach
Right.
Momoko cover is actually really pretty though. I like that one. But the Scotty one's kind of funny too because basically it's them fighting, but it's in Scotty Young fashion. They're all cutesy, cartoony kind of.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our indies here. Distillery Press, which is, of course, the new kid on the block. They're the new creator-owned stuff there. They put out The Devil's Cut, which was an anthology book kind of introducing distillery, kind of what they've got to offer. Of course, The Devil's Cut's a bourbon reference. That's basically the bourbon that soaks into the wood of the barrels. So basically, that's you've got the angel share, which basically that's the one that gets evaporated, that goes to heaven, and then the one that soaks in the wood, that's one that goes to the devils. There you go. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, so a little bourbon lingo there for you. Nonetheless, so the Devil's Cut anthology series, kind of different creative teams. It was literally a who's who of like superstar indie people here. This is their first ongoing series called Gone by superstar artist Jock, who we know from a lot of Batman stuff. This is a
Hmm.
sci-fi series. Basically, it's sort of a tale of haves and have-nots. You've got these like super futuristic cities, and there's these big, the ship there in. Hang on, center. There we go. So it kind of looks like a weird Starship Enterprise, but these are basically
Voyager
like,
almost. Yeah.
yeah, but these are basically like cruise liners that go through space. But they also like are fully armed, weapons and stuff like that. So they're full militarized, or they're ready for deep space travel. They can put all the guests in hypersleep and stuff like that, or they can basically be pleasure paradise, Carnival Cruise Line kind of thing. So
Okay.
so fully operational sort of thing like that. But the story is basically you've got all the have-nots essentially live in like shanty towns on the outskirts of the super cities, kind of very Judge Dreddy sort of thing like that, right?
Right.
And you've got our heroine is a young girl. She's trying to find food for just her and her mom. And mom is pregnant, by the way. And so they're typical thing they do is they go and they raid these cruise ships as they're taking off, and they'll raid them for food and supplies and whatever else, and then they'll pop out from the escape hatches, so they're the escape pods, and they go back down to Earth. There we go. So there's a job they're going to do to get some food, and a couple of new people come on there. The new people start some trouble, and our girl gets stranded on the cruise ship by herself while her friends get back down to Earth, and now she's in deep space by herself on this cruise ship where she's not supposed to be. So,
Okay.
and on top of the fact that you have saboteurs who have stowed on here, and also a resistance group that basically are kind of against the whole, haves and have-nots, and why are the people who can't live inside these big cities? Why are they starving? That sort of resistance group there. So
Yeah.
I don't want to call them terrorists because they're fighting for people who are starving and dying. So, but the rich folk, I guess, would want to call them terrorists. So, yeah,
Fair.
matter of opinion. More other things here. So, of course, we talked about this one earlier. The new Conan
Oh
the
yeah.
Barbarian, number 4. That's the A cover by Roberto De La Torre. There is a
Nice.
version, black and white version of this available as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
issue 4 is, I guess, I can't love a Conan book any more than I love this current series from Titan. Uh,
This is up there with the Dark Horse series so far for me. And yeah.
I mean, just I compare this to the original Marvel stuff because De La Torre is doing this whole like John Buscema tribute. To, like he's doing it because
Yeah.
is a fantastic artist on his own, but he's doing this whole changing his style to make it look like Buscema from like the 70s, 80s
You're
Marvel.
you're right, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, especially like kind of in the especially the magazine style
Yeah,
almost.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just outstanding. So it's just that Jim Zub's writing is fantastic. The story is great. It's to the point. It's a great Conan story. He's fighting demonic monsters, and there's zombie people, and they're trying to stop other Sumerians or other Picts or Venerians or else from getting taken in by these dark forces in turn. Just classic Conan kind of stuff here.
Right, right,
But
right.
just great art, great writing. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it. So
Nice.
issue 4 ends the first story arc, and then issue 5 starts up a brand new one. So there you go.
Sweet.
Looking forward.
Oh, also coming in January, Arrow is releasing the 4K Conan the Barbarian and Destroyer box set. And it will have that audio commentary from the DVD where Schwarzenegger's just drunk out of his mind.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest commentary tracks in the history of DVD. If you're into physical media, just get it for that commentary. Just try and find a secondhand copy of that DVD that it's got on it. It's fantastic.
I've since upgraded to Blu-ray, but I still have my DVD because actually I don't think the Blu-ray has that commentary on
No,
it.
the Blu-ray is weirdly bare bones, and that was kind of
Yeah,
upsetting. But yeah, this new version from Arrow is looking real nice.
nice. Okay, because
So
I
yeah,
hung on to my DVD of Conan the Barbarian because of that commentary.
right.
Yeah, solely because it's like
I get
there
laid a
are.
lot in this movie.
Well, it reminds me a lot of when like Conan O'Brien or Robert Smigel are doing Arnold Schwarzenegger voices, or they're doing
Right?
it
Yeah,
Conan the Barbarian. Like the whole commentary is that.
yeah. Yeah. And he's narrating the movie as he goes, and Milanus is trying to keep it on track, and eventually just throws his hands in the air and goes along with it. But yeah, it's an entertaining commentary track in its own right.
Yes, it is.
I love
Oh,
it when like especially with stuff with movies like where you can have something like if you're not into it like Twilight, but then riff tracks can come and make an audio commentary and turn it into a fantastic comedy. Like that's almost what this commentary does for Conan.
yeah, it really does. Yeah. Of course, you saying that reminds me of like anytime someone will take a well-known movie or TV show and like re-edit a trailer or something like that and turn it into like turning The Office into a horror series or
Yeah.
The Shining into like a Nora Roberts romantic comedy or something
My
like
my favorite was when they took the mini series of It and turned it into that family friendly romantic thing, and Pennywise was just this whimsical character that would come in and grant wishes.
that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Those are great.
yeah, just genius, just the power of editing. Really, you can turn anything
Yeah.
into anything. Next up here, of course, I've championed this series from the beginning from CEX.
Mhm.
This is 7 Years in Darkness. Love this book. This is the fourth issue. Sadly, ending the first volume. Fortunately, which you find out a solicitation in the back, we get a one shot coming up here in a couple months called like the something worm or whatnot. It's got a subtitle. So 7 Years of Darkness, the some name worm.
The
Basically,
something worm.
the something worm. Yeah, it sounds nasty. And volume 2 is on its way. But yeah, so it's like I just absolutely love this series. I compare it to. I've said this is like the black metal version of Harry Potter. So, uh, but yeah, it's a
Yeah.
school for witchcraft and wizardry, but it's not nice and cozy and comfy. Basically, 72 kids come in, 7 come out. What happens to the other kids? They die horribly. In
Sounds
various
lovely.
fashion. And sometimes it's not during classes. Sometimes it's during tests. Sometimes they're murdered by other fellow students who have a competitive edge. It's that
Dang.
kind of school, folks.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, blackmail Harry Potter. Next one here from Boom Studios. This is a brand new one here called Slow Burn. This is kind of a crime noirish sort of book here, done by Ollie Masters, Pierluigi Minotti. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that name, and Alessandro Santoro. But great, very kind of crime noirish art here. The art
Yeah.
is kind of very indicative of what's inside of the book here. Plot is basically you've got a heist gone wrong. You've got a cokehead, her injured partner who's basically dying of a gunshot wound, and his grandfather, who A is a former hitman and B is highly in the throes of dementia, are on the run because of said bad heist. They're on the run from other mobsters, the cops, whatever else. They stow away in that famous Pennsylvania mining town that had a fire underground in the coal mines, and a
Mhm.
vein of coal was lit. And so basically, the town has been on fire underground for decades, and it will burn for hundreds of years more. That's the town they end up in.
Wow.
So it's a ghost town, but there's still some people there. Weird stuff's going on. There's a lot of twists and turns in how the mobster stuff is going on. So it did like the solicitation kind of for the plot is kind of teased maybe like it was a supernatural kind of thing, but I don't see that just yet. It's just weird town and people up to they're past their pay grade when it comes to criminal activity.
Right, right.
All right, and then the last two from Image here. This one's been selling quick, so we're almost out of copies of the shop here. But this has been Universal Monsters Dracula, written
Oh.
by James Tinian IV, drawn by Martin Simmons. A powerhouse duo here, folks. And this is an adaptation of the Universal Dracula, which was, of course, based off the Bram Stoker Dracula.
Right.
But this is classic Gothic horror in the traditional Universal Monsters fashion. But Martin Simmons' art puts it over the edge. Renfield is terrifying in the way Martin depicts him. And the Dracula looks pretty sinister too, but Renfield's is just yeah. So cannot recommend that one enough. But got a feeling folks are gonna have to wait for a second print because we have I think 2 or 3 copies left over at Clobbering Comics, and it's literally the blank sketch variants. It's like the ones you can take to
Oh wow.
cons that people's drawn or whatnot. That's all we have left. All the A and B covers are gone. The incentive
Yeah.
covers are gone. This one was hotcakes, folks, so we didn't prepare for it well enough. But hey, good on
Hey, some I like those books that come in under the radar and you don't expect, and then immediately just kind of blow up.
Well,
You
I mean, it's
know.
like we had some old school horror fans and myself that jumped on the bandwagon. It's like, oh, cool, Dracula, James Tinian, Martin Simmons, down. Yeah, let's
Right, right, right.
take my money, please. And then you look at it, you read it, like, what? Like I said, it's like I mean, James is probably like the preeminent writer in the comic verse right now. And Martin Simmons is a classic, artist. He's been doing comic stuff for a very long time. And of course, we know him a lot from doing variant covers more recently. But when he gets into horror stuff, which he just has to twist his art just a tiny little bit, and what is already kind of interesting, beautiful, somewhat spooky art can become very horrific very quickly. Yeah, it's just love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, can't say enough good things. Lastly, our last book here is Radiant Black number 26. And of course, if you are reading Radiant Black, you know that there is a split. Or actually, I should do it this way because they're connecting that way. There we go. All right. So basically, what is happening here is that a few issues ago, we've got originally there was 2 friends found this kind of like open black hole that gave them superpowers from another world, sort of thing like that. Kind of very Power Ranger looking, but more I don't know, singular sort of protector sort of thing like that.
Right.
Uh, then they figured out they could kind of share the powers for a little bit. That worked out okay. But usually it was kind of like one or the other would wield it. But now there's in this Catalyst War storyline where basically the aliens who are responsible for this power have come back and said, yeah, we don't like you having this. We need it back. So now you've got all these other people on Earth who've popped up and have similar abilities or whatever else, or similar weaponry from their from the same alien's origin, are now fighting against the aliens, trying to save Earth and keep their own stuff. But since the story has split, we've got one guy who basically they were forced to make a choice. You pick, you pick, and they did that. But then what they ended up doing was they give us like an optional point 0.5 what if issue. So the main storyline follows Marshall, who has been holding the Radiant Black for a little bit, and whatever else have been sharing it with the original wielder, Nathan. So the point 0.5 issue follows Nathan. So basically, so you could read both. You could read one or the other, depending on what you want to do. Eventually, we will come back to a merging point and only have to buy one Radiant Black book a month. But right now, get the full story by two, because the very interesting thing, the first issue they did this in, there was a slight variation in the book. So it's like, okay, well, it's kind of like they just changed like 3 pages. This one is decidedly different. It starts off kind of the same way, but when things start getting kicked off about maybe like 5 pages in, the book changes entirely. So you can read 26A and get one outcome, but then if you read 26.5, you get an entirely different outcome for what's
That's
going on.
cool.
Yeah, it's really well done. I've never seen anything like this in comics where you get a total kind of like what if series, within the main series. So
Right.
yeah, so but it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we basically the storyline converges once again. Like, so we only have to buy one Radiant Black book after this Catalyst War. But
Yeah.
oh, and one thing real quick before we break for a moment, and more interesting what if stuff here in the January solicitation for DC Comics. They're pulling an interesting one on us. What was it? Issue 627, the infamous death of Jason Todd. Is that what it is, or five? Whatever.
It's no, it's 627, 627. Yeah.
Okay.
Because eventually I know issue 666 is into Nightfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, 627 is the death of Jason Todd, right? Well, if those who remember when this guy originally came out back in the 80s, there was a phone line you could call and vote on if you want to keep Jason Todd alive or dead, right?
Right.
And unanimously the vote was kill him. Which, so we were mean in the 80s, I guess, but we didn't
Well, it
like.
wasn't necessarily unanimous. I had heard of people voting to keep him alive for some reason. I remember Judd Winnick was a big proponent for keeping him alive, and then he later on resurrected him.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. You're absolutely right, but yeah, the vote was kind of an overwhelming majority.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People wanted blood.
Yeah, it
So
was it was like an 85-15 kind of thing. Like
right.
it was pretty. Yeah, let's kill the kid.
Yeah.
So, but in January they are releasing the "What if we voted to keep him alive" issue.
Oh,
So
they finally, dude, grab me one of them for sure. Yes,
yes,
please.
yes, they have been restored. The original pages have been restored. They did, I think, like there's some variations in it, and then like for the actual event, and then like the rest of the book finishes differently. But yeah, so like
That sounds cool. Yeah.
the absolute biggest what if what if Jason Todd actually lived, which of course he did. With they did the whole Under the Red Hood
Yeah.
storyline, but back in the 80s, if we had not voted to kill him off, what would that
Who
been
knows?
like?
We
So,
may not. We may not have got Tim Drake. May not have got
and I've
Stephanie
got Tim
Brown.
Drake. We
Yeah.
may not have had to have Azrael take over for the Bat.
True. That is
Yeah,
true. Yeah. That's a
yeah,
yeah.
that's a big
Yeah.
thing
There's
right
all
there.
yeah. Dang.
So there's a couple of big things in the 90s right there. It's like
Right. Yeah.
because that was like because yeah, Tim Drake was almost immediately introduced after Jason was killed because
Right.
he was like the consolation prize. But then everybody loved Tim. So
Right. Well,
yeah,
Tim figured out that Bruce was Tim's thing was that he figured out that Bruce was Batman. There was a kid that figured it out.
yeah,
And yeah, because Batman wasn't too keen on him, especially after losing Jason Todd. And eventually Tim Drake had to prove himself, and but he did. I liked how they managed to make Tim a significantly different character than Jason or Dick,
Right.
and it was yeah. I was always a Tim Drake Robin fan. He was my Robin.
And that's the thing too is that they've kind of in the Batman comics always kind of alluded that he's and Bruce has said like he's the greatest of the Robins because of that. So that he is the greatest detective. So
Yeah,
that he's even better than Bruce. So I was like, well, it's a bold statement, but it's also probably true.
yeah.
All right, we're going to take a station break and breathe for a moment here, and then we come back. It's time to talk our spooky games here. So we will see you all in a moment.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
All right, we are back. Get some comments here I haven't seen yet. Oh, no, yeah, okay. All right, comments that I missed here, but I have not. So,
I had it in full screen, so I didn't even notice.
oh, you're good. Of course, before we get too far into things here, talking stuff, we got to plug something here because my boy has got his own show.
I
That's right.
do. I do.
Yep.
We me and my buddy Bill, well, your buddy as well. We
Mm-hmm.
have decided that we're going to start our own podcast, the Smokes and Roadbeers podcast, that you can find on Rumble and Facebook every Thursday live at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30
Mm-hmm.
Central. We are a pop culture podcast. We are a mature audiences podcast.
Yes.
So there's
And
some
you say
language
bad
for,
words.
yeah, we do say bad words. We also cover some topics that maybe I think the way that we cover other topics, not I hesitate to try and use the word edgy, but we at least want to talk about them and try and hammer things out, like our
Sure.
thoughts on certain points. We talk about wrestling. We talk about we talk about a lot. We cover the same ground that we do on here
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. But it's been a lot of fun to do it with Bill, and he's my co-host. He's my
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a terrible job of selling myself here on it, but
No,
yeah,
you're good.
we've been going for about we just did our fifth official episode yesterday.
Yeah. So a
So
little
it's
over a
been
month now. So
yeah, a little over a month now, and we're getting some good traction. And thank you for having me. Thank you for being one of the inspirations of my decision to do that. It was something
oh,
Bill and I had talked about doing stuff before, and we'd even kind of done a few things together from time to
yeah,
time. But he had wanted to do something with me for a while, and that was I had done a podcast before, but it wasn't really something that I wanted to do. It was the people wanted to be red letter media, and I that wasn't fun for
yeah,
me.
right.
But I did that for a while, and kind of stood away from it. But everything kind of rolled back into it. And of course, you invited me to the television station when you were in TV, and I did this with you for years, for a while before that. And, so
Yep.
that gave me the confidence to know it's like, well, at least someone might think I'm interesting for a few
You
minutes.
can do this stuff. Yep.
So yeah, so again, thank you for being an inspiration for it.
No,
But
brother.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And thank you for having me on here. Thank you for letting me promote it. Again,
Of
it's
course.
7:30, 7 or 6, yeah,
6:30.
6:30 Eastern every Thursday on Facebook and Rumble. But
That's
yeah,
right.
Smokes and Rubber. We got to have a TikTok, or we already have a TikTok as well that I'm kind of having more fun with than I want to admit. Really,
Yeah,
TikTok.
I saw your near dark review on there. So
Yeah, that's one thing I want to start kind of doing is just little capsule reviews of my movie collection. I think that'd just be kind of interesting. Get a little. I've got some pretty good interaction with that too. So we'll see how things go. It's fun to be creative. Like I see why you do this. It's just you get to put your voice out there and it yeah and be yourself. It's fun. I like
it
it.
is, and that's the thing I love about your old show is, of course, like you said, yeah, you talk, geek stuff, and you talk like what's going on in other pop culture. Like you guys were like this past week, or no, this week. I'm sorry, this week. You guys were talking about like what's going on with Taylor Swift and the football player she's dating, and then she was hanging out with like another football player.
Right.
That, like,
Yeah. And there was this zeitgeist around that. And I didn't know. Bill was teaching me as we're going through that.
right.
But going, yeah. And, he's going through and showing me all the tweets, and you can see all this stuff during the show as we go on. But yeah, really fascinating different perspectives.
Yeah, it
That,
really is. You guys just cover the gamut. You guys have been talked about, AI stuff, and so there's been some, little politics or social issues going on, or things like yeah. You guys are across the board, so I appreciate.
yeah.
I
Yeah, we
enjoy
don't want to be too heavy with it. We still want to be entertaining, but we
exactly.
will we also try and keep the end of the show, pretty light and goofy, as
Mhm.
we try to do with various things. Like we'll pick a draft, or like yesterday we had an AMA, and
Yeah,
yeah, just to not be a total bummer all the time. If any of the other topics that we talk about were just kind of not your thing.
yeah. I was eating dinner during the AMA part of the show, so I missed that, but I was in there for the first half of it with you guys. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's what I like about a lot of the drafts. But yeah, it's definitely not for children. So just just
Right.
let because there. I mean, it's you guys don't curse like sailors on there, but sometimes there's some language
No, but we can
you're
be
talking about the
off color
adult
and
issues or whatnot. Yeah, so
right. Yeah.
you could have great last lines on the episodes there, like when
Right. That I can't repeat here. Right. No.
the Spocker.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out Smokes and Road Beers podcast, and if you guys get that reference, we're friends already. So
Yes, indeed.
yes. Oh, and Bill says, and it's a lot of fun. Yes, and Bill is
It's a
yeah,
huge ton of fun. Bill,
yeah.
my other brother from another mother.
That's right. Bill is co-host for the show here, so yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
You guys, of course, you guys have different perspectives on things too. So when it
Right.
comes to stuff, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good
and
show.
that's one thing Bill and I have always been able to do is we can have different perspectives and disagree, but we disagree well, and we know that there's a point where it's like, well, we know what each other has to say about the subject. There's nothing more because neither one of us can really do anything to change it. But yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a good show, folks. Definitely check it out. So
Well,
of course
thank
I
you, thank
share it
you.
from time to time on my personal page and on
Yes.
Friends of the Fanatic Forum. So yeah, so
And we are
definitely.
going to have you on there very, very soon.
Yeah,
So
which I'll have to work out. Like I may have to just do the show like from the shop, because when you guys start the show, I'm still for like the first half of your show. I'm still working at the shop. Of course, usually by that time it's kind of dead anyway. So probably
yeah,
doing
we
the
can even do a
podcast.
pre-tape or something later. That's not out of the realm of
Yeah,
possibility. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I can join you guys live. Like I said, let's probably just I'll just do the show from the
From
comic
the
book shop.
shop. That'd
And,
be cool too. Yeah.
and if a customer happens to walk in, have to check them out, then be like, okay, hang on a second, I'm gonna go
Right.
handle this.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, at least for the first 30 minutes. And then
Yeah.
once 7 o'clock rolls around, then we're good. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
what's great is I've been in your comic book store too. I know that you could have a Smokes and Road Beers level discussion in that store vocally and without, any fear of repercussion. So,
we normally do have those
right.
level of discussion. It's a barber shop inside a comic book store,
Right.
because
Yeah.
especially when you get a bunch of the regulars sitting around, we start getting a discussion about things, or Tommy saw some video online and he's fired up about something and he wants to talk about it, and you know, so I'm like, oh,
Right.
first thing in the morning, go ahead. Good thing I have a coffee. I'm ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So like so, yeah. It's barbershop. All we maybe don't curse as much when there's children around,
Right.
but for the
Right.
most part, yeah, it's like, and all are welcome in the conversation and join us. But yeah, sometimes we get filthy. Or everyone's favorite topic is when we start talking wrestling about things, and then if Clinton is around, he'll be like, "Hey, ask him about Brock Lesnar," and then I go off about how I don't like Brock Lesnar, and call him the human ham sandwich.
You've got a whole shtick that you could film this and make it a thing because I've seen your Brock Lesnar rant. You'll have to do it. We'll have to bait you on Smokes and Road Beers to get you to
It
do
might
it, especially in the middle of the store.
It might be because it's one of these things that I mean, I've met Brock in person back in the OVW days. I worked a little bit backstage, just like a
Right.
photographer and security for a couple of shows. Thank you, Kenny Bolin. But yeah, so I've been in his presence, and I'm telling you, folks, I'm not lying. The man is built for combat sports and little else.
Right. Yeah, there's one thing that man was put on this earth to do, and that was hurt people.
Yes, and not much else. I mean, he's got his,
Right.
I know he enjoys fishing and hunting and stuff like that, but you're not going to get into a good, discussion about anything with him
Right.
at all.
No, never.
At all. No,
Nope.
he is not social. And yeah, I'm going to get off topic here. We got to talk about video games here.
Yes.
Because one of these days, when I'm back in the presence of Brock Lesnar, if he has any inkling of any of the things, I mean, I'm probably not the only detractor he's got, but I'm downright insulting sometimes. And I don't get that with normal people, but for some reason, he just gets my goat. And,
And that's really saying something for you, because I know you're one of the most even-tempered people that I know.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
enough about
Anyway.
that. Yeah, I'm going to get killed by him one day. It will be epic, and I will deserve it. So I will not sue because I will have it coming. But it'll be death by sandwich. All right. So we are talking about scary horror video games here. So of course these, like I said, at the top of the show, these can range from like the beginning of video games all the way down to what's currently out right now, and not just console, arcade, PC, whatever the case may be here. And,
yeah, if it was a scary experience.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, we've even had some other, of course, we've had a lot of the popular stuff. The Resident Evils, the originals have been name checked. Justin Magnuson talked about that one. We've had, the Silent Hills, because of course, I think Bill mentioned that one. Tommy Crane, he brought up Diablo, which I didn't really think of as a horror series, but it fits. I mean,
Diablo, the lore for Diablo is super, super dark, and it is a straight up, it is a horror game. I do.
It's a fantasy horror, but it's
right. Oh yeah, it's a super dark fantasy horror game.
Yeah, but I was like, you're fighting demons and all kinds of stuff like that. You're in the underworld. It's like, it's a horror game. I just didn't really think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because I guess it doesn't have any spooky moments. It's more of like a combat and the top down kind of thing.
Right. It's the atmosphere is what gives you the horror. There's not really going to be anything that like jumps out and scares you, but it's just like the grotesque monsters that you continue to fight, and these things are the legions of hell that are eating souls of these villagers.
Exactly. Yeah. And Schaefer Tolliver busted out an oldie but a goodie that I kind of forgot about. Because we were trying to figure out what it was, because he was like, it's Resident Evil on a boat. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so that's Resident Evil Revelations. And it's like, no, it wasn't actually a Resident Evil game. It was like a Resident Evil game, but it was on a boat. It's like, oh, okay. So we looked up, and he found that it's called Cold Fear. So it came out for the PS2, I believe.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember that. Yeah.
I remember it slightly. I don't remember it being very, I think it was like more actiony than like being the survival horror. It was more of just kind of like, a third person House of the Dead kind of thing,
Yeah.
That's kind of what, if I remember it correctly. But yeah, it was when he brought it, like, oh yeah, I remember that. So that's the kind of fun thing. Is there's so many games that would fall under this banner here that they've basically had since there have been video games. So.
I got burned so hard on the first Resident Evil clone that I tried to play that I pretty much refused to play most of the rest of them. And the first clone that I played was the Evil Dead game.
Oh
that first PlayStation game was one of the most god awful games I had ever played. I remember I spent lunch money in college on that. Like I didn't eat for like a week because I knew it was coming out and I was going to play this Evil Dead game over the weekend. And it was just the most abysmal game. I finished it. It was torture, but Bruce Campbell's voice did not save that one.
That was the only good thing about that game.
Yeah. I mean, it was just unnecessarily difficult for no reason, and it didn't tell you anything of what was going on. And
Yeah.
it was a miserable game, but
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like like there's games like the Bloodborne series or whatever else. Like that's their claim to fame is that these are incredibly difficult games, and that's the people who enjoy a real challenge. They go to those games. That's why they have
right.
their audience. It's
But
because
this game, like though Bloodborne's one of my favorite games.
right,
That actually almost made my list. Uh, but but no, the Bloodborne is difficult in a way that it is designed to be difficult. There, you can improve and change how you play, or take different tactics.
exactly.
Evil Dead was difficult in a way where you had to somehow imagine how the developer wanted you to solve some bizarre particular puzzle at that given time while you were doing terrible inventory management and resource management with a gasless chainsaw arm, because yes, you had to constantly pick up gas in that game, and then you would time travel in medieval England. They had gasoline again for your
Oh,
chainsaw,
that's
right?
convenient.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, well, we have picked ourselves a true dirty dozen here of games. Basically, I pick six, you pick six here.
Yep,
So, since you are our esteemed guest here, we'll get one of your first ones here, and we of
let's
course
do it.
talk about this one. And I agree with you. This is a fantastic one. The OG Silent Hill.
Yes, I know people are gonna say two is the better game objectively. I really can't argue that, but nothing to me will beat the atmosphere that this first Silent Hill game gave. Just
Mhm.
the town covered in fog and not knowing what was going on, and having the radio that would emit the static, and just
Yeah.
the lore that this game built. And I tell you, the first time those air raid sirens kick in, and then yeah, it's so surreal, and then it changes into the other world. And
Hmm.
this game, I remember playing this distinctly in high school and dreaming about this. It didn't necessarily give me nightmares, but I dreamt about
Hmm.
this game, especially that world, especially when you went into the school and the walls were all dirty and smeared with who knows what.
Oh, yeah, I
And
love that.
yeah, and just the endings of the game, and the tension, the dread that it made you feel. It wasn't a jump out and scare you horror game a lot of ways. It was a going to make you feel real bad to kind of make it through kind of horror game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 3 miles of bad road.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a Resident Evil where it's built for combat. Like you had some weapons, but it wasn't that kind of
Yeah,
game. It was figuring out the mystery of Silent Hill.
right.
Uh,
I the best way I think I heard it described before was that if Night of the Living Dead is to Resident Evil as Hellraiser is to Silent Hill. And that was a pretty good
yeah,
distinction, I think.
I think so. Yeah, because of course, I mean, you know, you've got like was like the Pyramid Head is what the
Right.
axe
Pyramid Head
wielding
showed up in the
thing.
second one. Yeah.
Yeah, you get some definitely kind of Cenobite looking sort of
Oh
creatures
yeah.
coming in. But yeah, even I've never seen the second Silent Hill film, but the first Silent Hill film was excellent.
I
As a
thought the
great,
second Silent Hill, yeah, the second movie was great too. I thought they
very
were
cool.
both really good.
I'll
Yeah.
check it out. But yeah, the first one does a great job of adapting the game. So yeah, it was it kind of irritated me that it wasn't more successful as a film because the Resident Evil film had come out prior to
Right.
that, and it was horribly not. I mean, it was good, but it was
But it
not.
wasn't faithful.
It
Right.
wasn't faithful at all to the game. I mean, there was
But
zombies.
Silent, yeah.
That's about it. Silent Hill was an adaptation of the game, and
Yeah,
why
it was right.
yeah, yeah,
And
it
one
is like
thing, yeah, one thing too to mention about Silent Hill is that for especially for people like us that grew up on like the 80s horror movies,
mhm,
Silent Hill really borrowed a lot from that. Like Stephen King's The Mist was a big influence on it. John Carpenter, like a lot of these authors are even name dropped as streets when
yeah,
you look at the map.
mhm,
The influences are it's a Japanese take on American horror,
yeah.
and it's yeah, you don't get much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of
Silent
course,
Hill 1 and 2 especially. Yeah.
yeah, and of course they keep the series going from time to time. You get different iterations of games.
Right.
I think they'd even do they remake the original? I think or
I believe there's a remake coming of it.
oh yeah, it's coming. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you could
Some
go
some
out,
games are better than others, but from my understanding, the series as a whole is fairly solid.
yeah, Yeah, but definitely one
Yeah.
and two are the strongest
Right.
entries for sure. So guys, if you can ever go and seek those out on PlayStation Store or something like that, yeah, I highly recommend doing those if you have not.
Yeah.
This was a cool one because I have not actually played this series before here, but I'm very familiar
Oh,
with System Shock.
yes, System Shock. I love. Okay, so System Shock 1 and 2. It's a companion piece to each other, I believe.
Mhm.
And these games are some of the poster children for the genre called immersive sim for PC
Okay,
games. And what that is where it puts you in an area and it gives you like if there is a door in front of you, then there must be another way to access this door.
okay,
So, it may be, if you punch through it or, you get a key card or you go through a vent or, something like that.
right.
But the premise of this game is that you are a hacker and you have hacked into this corporation and they did not like that. So they took you and they basically offered you a job. So
Mhm.
you can go up into this space station and do what we need you to do something with this AI, and you'd be employed with us. So of
Sure.
course, yeah, all hell breaks loose and you are the hacker alone on this space station fighting against a rogue AI named Shodan. And
Oh,
as you're going through the space station, you're picking up audio logs of what is going on and you're piecing together just what people have done and how sadistic this thing is. And once you finally engage Shodan and really start, because Shodan is fighting you the entire time through, especially in the first game.
hmm,
Shodan is fighting you with sending drones or making sure watching you through cameras, so you have to disable them, or maybe you don't want to say, maybe you want Shodan to know what you're doing and it adapts. So that's the first game, is you fighting Shodan. The second game is supposed to trick you into not realizing that it's Shodan
hmm.
until later on. That's supposed to be the big twist, but they, of course, they screw that up because they put her on the box. So like, it's not a spoil. I can't say that it's a spoiler when it's presented to you, directly. But System
Wah.
Shock 2, yeah, System Shock 2 is the better game of the two. It's definitely more of the modern game, but I mean it's still kind of clunky as compared to today's standard. System Shock 1 did get a remake recently for PC that's coming to consoles, which
Okay.
more refines it and everything, which is an excellent experience. I played the demo for that. But System Shock 2 is you are actually a military person or who gets sent to a space station 50 years later after an AI has taken over the space station.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and so basically it's System Shock ramped up, it's as all good sequels should be, bigger, better, and more
Sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and right, yeah. I love me some System Shock.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I was familiar with the series, but yeah, of course, I'm more of a console gamer, so anything that
Right.
was PC only, I'm like, well, unless I have my buddy Dave Gardner. He's a PC guy for a while, and so like a lot of the Star Wars, simulate flight simulator games, the nice
Right.
or Tie
X-Wing,
Fighter,
TIE
X-wing, stuff like
Fighter, yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah, Wing Commander, stuff like that. I'm well versed in those because he had those games. But yeah, so
Right.
if Dave didn't have them, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, you can pick up the first two System Shocks for pretty cheap, and they should be able to run on most systems anymore, because it's not. I mean, obviously the games were made something like 25, 30 years ago, so
Yeah, so
yeah,
it should
they're
be
going to
pretty
be.
easy to run.
And one is is pretty difficult to play, because if you're used to a first person shooter with your mouse being the camera where you can look with it, it doesn't do that. You have
Yeah.
to actually, you have to actually toggle that off and on to have free look. But if you can
Okay.
get past that, it's actually a good experience. But the remake is actually solid and it takes care of all those problems. So if
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah, you can
Nice.
hold out and wait for the remake, and then yeah, you'll be terrified and it'll be awesome.
Nice. Here's some old school Xbox here, and this was a series that I why I missed this one and didn't get around to playing it. I don't know because it's right up my alley.
Oh yeah.
Fear.
Yes. This is so yeah, it's Fear is an acronym for First Encounter Assault Recon, and you are a soldier in a government program that the program has been experimenting with psychic powers.
Mhm.
And then of course something goes wrong. Which, if it didn't go wrong, what would the fun be?
We wouldn't have a
But
game.
yeah. Basically, imagine this. Imagine the colonial marines from the aliens fighting the
Mhm.
girl from the ring.
Right.
And yeah. And so Samara is her name, and she will pop up and she will just be this creepy little child that you want to shoot with a machine gun, but you can't because of stuff. But of course, you've got powers too as well. Your character is affected by this. But
Okay.
it's the 90s first person shooter. The way the levels are laid out are the atmosphere is just dripping off of these things. And of course, the story, you learn the story as you go. And
Okay.
of course, you start to and find more and more supernatural encounters as you go on. And it's there's really not been an experience like especially the first two Fear games. The
Hmm.
third Fear game is not as highly regarded. They all continue the story, but John Carpenter did work on the third Fear game.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, it is pretty cool because he actually came up. There's an entire separate mode on there called F and Run. It's not, and now you're running down a city street as this like cloud of black and gray supernatural destruction is coming behind you, and you just have to
Oh,
shoot your way forward as long as you can. And yeah,
wow.
it's a
That's
great mode,
cool.
especially if you get your buddies with it on PC or whatever. And yeah, it's fun. It's a blast.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, Fears. I have those too, by the way, and I can loan you those games. So
Okay, yeah, I'll check that out.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'll dig them.
And one game, of course, we're getting a little more current. One game I definitely agree with you on: Alien Isolation.
Yes, I loved this game because it's not the shooter Alien game that you may want, but it
It's not
is.
aliens; it's
Right,
alien.
it's Alien. And you are Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda, and you are trying to figure out what happened to your mother. This takes place after the first Alien movie.
Mhm.
You're trying to figure out what happened to your mother. And
Yeah,
so Wayland Yutani takes you up on the space station because they're going to, of course, give you information or whatever. But
sure.
Wayland Yutani also, kind of has an idea about the xenomorph. And
Yeah,
long well, yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that eventually the alien is going to interact with Amanda Ripley at some point. And
right.
what's your job to do as Amanda is to hide and get from basically point A to point B, avoiding the alien, as it can hide from you in vents. It can be in it can come and get you in lockers. You have to basically evade the thing. There is no killing the alien.
Right.
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry, Moxley is being fidgety over here. Come on, bud. But yeah, so the thing, and you're also in a space station, mind you, though, and there are people in this space station as it's dying and shutting down because this alien is just tearing systems out through there, and
Right.
the synthetics are there too, and they're the next stage of synthetics. They're between Kane and Bishop. So they
Okay.
actually just look like a general. There's a name for them that I forgot, the Mr. Hand or something, but
Yeah, so like that. Yeah.
yeah, but they become enemies that you need to evade, or you can actually use sometimes you can even get good and weaponize the alien because you get items in this game like noisemakers or you have to be careful as to what noise or how much noise you make
Right.
because you can
Yeah.
always attract the alien. There are various safe rooms, but they're not always safe, basically.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
find that out the hard way a couple of
Right.
times.
And so, but you get noisemakers, and say that there's a group of bad human or of human NPCs that you need to avoid. You can actually throw the noisemaker there and attack and get the alien to attack them while you
Yeah.
move around. So it's terrifying. It's tense. You will just if you try and play this game, there is no
Yeah.
way that you could not just be on edge the entire time, especially with the way they do light and shadow. It's very much like the first Alien, where they intentionally have shadows that look like the alien that make you think
Exactly.
that you're. Yeah. And of course, then there's grates that fall down and like the wires hang, or any number of things just to make you scared, just that little extra bit.
And that's what's also what kind of adds to the terror is that basically, yeah, Amanda's a non-combatant character,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're supposed to hide and run and whatever else and not fight. And so a lot of times your instincts, if you normally play a lot of games, is to fight,
Right.
and that's not how you do that in this game.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's what kind of adds to the terror. So
Right.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of my
because you
picks.
do get a gun. You do get guns in the game, and
Yeah,
they're effective against the synthetics, sure, but you're also firing a gun, which is
yeah,
loud. And
very loud.
yeah.
And attracts a lot of attention.
Mhm.
And probably another thing you have to worry about too is that if you do try to do like close combat shooting or something like that, that you
Right.
get spray back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, so
They
it's
they
I mean
they thought of a lot of the things in this game.
it really did. It's such an inventive entry into the alien because there've been aliens games all over the place
Right.
since basically since the 80s. But yeah, this is such an inventive entry
Yeah.
into this
And
thing. So yeah,
especially if you can play it with surround sound, I would suggest doing that just to get that whole immersive thing. I play it
no
sometimes in
lights
my
on
surround.
set. Just
Yeah.
scare the crap out of yourself.
Right.
And your last and final one, and one I wholeheartedly agree with you on here, of the remakes they've been doing, this has been my absolute favorite. But my favorite entry into the Resident Evil series, Dose.
Yes, the remake of Resident Evil 2. I got it for Xbox and played it last year during Halloween, and it was the perfect game to do that with
Hmm.
because especially the way that it opens, where you walk into the gas station and you have those little zombie encounters. It basically feels like you are playing that zombie movie you always wanted to play.
Yeah,
And it had those great Resident Evil callbacks. Like if you played Resident Evil 2 and remembered stuff, then some of it even worked in this game. Some of it
mm,
necessarily didn't, and it kind of changed it up on you a little bit.
yeah,
But yeah, it was definitely one of the best remakes, especially how they did the shot or the bullet wounds because they
oh
were
no,
dynamic to the creatures. Something that
yeah,
the remake of the third one didn't do for some reason. But
I don't know, that
yeah,
was
but
odd.
yeah, just depending on where you shot the zombie or whatever, that was where they took damage. So you could do leg shots easily, and
Yeah,
or take an arm off or whatever. But yeah, it was a wonderful game, and they just patched it again for Xbox and PlayStation, so you can get 60 FPS out of it now instead of just
oh,
30. Yeah, so I need
okay.
to go back through and replay that again.
Okay, yeah, I still got my. Let's see here. No, actually, because I had it for PS and my PlayStation died, and I switched over, so I need to get it for Xbox. Then. Okay, there you
Oh,
go.
well, I have it for
Uh,
Xbox, so I can let you borrow it too. So.
okay, cool, nice.
uh,
But yeah, I'm with you. Originally, for the original series, 2 was always my favorite anyway, because I like
right.
Leon and like, some of the scenarios in the game are some of my favorites in the whole franchise. But yeah, this remake for 2 had it just chef's
Yeah.
kiss. Yeah, just
Yeah.
love it, love it, love it.
It was amazing.
All right. My list now, and I'm
Yes,
going in
sir.
chronological order of my picks here. And we're going back to the beginning because I pick Dracula, made by iMagic for the Intellivision Entertainment System.
Now, see, I'd never played this. I'd never even really heard about it. Like,
Um, I was fortunate enough to have an aunt who lived like 2 blocks away, and she and her husband didn't have kids; they had me. And so, just for giggles, when the Atari was like super popular, they got one and they had a couple of games for it, but they kind of collected dust. But then when I came along, then I started playing it a little more when I'd come out of their house. But at my own home for Christmas one year, my parents got my sister and I an Intellivision. Now, my sister played a little bit, but she was more interested in doing other things. So it
right.
was primarily my thing. But yeah, Dracula has always been one of my favorites for the Intellivision, but frankly, a very sophisticated 8-bit game, or actually even pre 8 bits, before that, because
Yeah.
just the amount of stuff you could do. Because of course you play the titular character here. You go around and finding victims. Basically people come out of their homes, or you can even like knock on doors, and if they come out, then you can run around try to catch them and suck their blood. And here's the cool thing: is that you could completely feed off them and renew your health and whatever the case may be. And you're cool to go there, or you can drain them halfway and turn them into ghouls, and then use them to basically because the bad guys in the game are cops, dogs. Even though you're supposed to be able to, like, you're Dracula, you should be able to turn into a wolf, but dogs are your enemy. So if dogs come and attack you, then you get you're screwed.
Yeah.
Or there are occasionally when things get really bad, you get like a small band of villagers, and like it's like there's like this brown group of people, and they're all carrying like torches and pitchforks and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, also, and your worst enemy is the sun. So you have a limited amount of time to run around and kill people, and you can even turn into a bat to escape and stuff like that. But yeah, the whole thing is basically you got to get back inside and get full up of blood before it turns daylight. Because if you're outside in the sun, then poof, you're dead.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's just an incredibly sophisticated game for first generation video games.
Yeah. Sounds
So
cool. I love that. I
yeah,
love that cover art too. Because
it's
that
really
that
well
just
done.
yeah.
Yeah. And it incorporates all things. You got Dracula right there. You got the bat. You can turn to a bat, and then you've got the ghoul in the background because basically you can turn hapless victims into ghouls. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, one of my absolute favorites here. Another one. Now, of course, I initially discovered this in the arcade. This was only released on home systems for the TurboGrafx 16, but this is Splatterhouse. And we
Splatterhouse is one of those games I always wanted to play, and I can say that I've never played a Splatterhouse game, sadly. But I've
dude,
wanted to so bad.
okay, either A, next time you're at the house, or B, I'll take you to 3 Decade Arcade because they have Splatterhouse at 3 Decade Arcade, so I play it there frequently. But I also have Splatterhouse on my little Raspberry Pi as well. So
Oh, okay.
either way. Splatterhouse is of course, like I said, came out originally for through the TurboGrafx system. So they had the arcade systems you can play, had like the multiple games on there to pick from.
Yeah.
Of course, you got the home system itself. But this was the game that basically all the slasher film fans were waiting for. It wasn't a Jason or Freddy game, but it was definitely, took a lot of stuff there, even throwing a little bit of Evil Dead. But the premise is that your boyfriend and girlfriend, you're on a nice outing, and you basically get, knocked unconscious when you're approaching this weird, big, scary looking house. You wake up inside the house, no girlfriend, and you're wearing this mask, which is supposedly a mask of power, but it looks a lot like a Jason hockey mask. And your goal, and also you have now got super buff. So you were not buff before, but now you are like super duper buff, and you look a lot like Jason Voorhees, basically.
Yeah.
So
I
you go.
remember these comic book ads more than anything else because and it was Dr. Herbert West's castle
Mhm,
that was I remember that specifically because of the Lovecraft connection. And I
mhm.
never understood because after he put the mask on and then it looked like Jason had just gotten off his shift at the local ER
Right,
in his
yeah,
doctor
and tore his
scrubs.
sleeves off, yeah, because
Yeah,
he was sleeveless,
right.
you know. But yeah, you're supposed to basically go through the house and rescue your girlfriend. It's a side scroller game. It's literally just a straight combat game. Like you can, punch, jump kick, stuff like that, or you can pick up weapons. My personal favorite is always, it wasn't a baseball bat. It was more like a plank of wood, like a 2x4, but it
Yeah.
worked like a baseball bat. And even when you knocked off people's heads, it made a nice crack sound, like you hit a home run. So that was always very satisfying. But there's even like these little in between levels where you have to sometimes fight evil possessed furniture. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's right. I remember I've watched YouTube videos of this game. That's how much I
mhm.
wanted to play this. And it's like, yeah, because it was supposed to that's another Evil Dead 2 spoof was the furniture bouncing all over the place as a
Yeah,
boss
because if the
battle.
whole room attacks you, like you have
Yeah,
glass that come off the bar shelf, there's a painting on the wall that comes off and attacks you, knives that were on the wall like in decorative fashion now flying off the wall at you,
right.
chairs, chandelier. The whole room's trying to attack you. And then of course you also got these like slug things that kind of look like basically like aliens in like they're like once they've kind of first hatched out of a body sort of
Yeah.
thing like that. Like those are frequently in the game. They're like so there's horror
Yeah,
references
it's
all
full of every bare or just barely different enough to not be sued. And I
yeah.
think they might one of the games actually might have been sued because of the similarity to the hockey mask.
Well,
But
the whole franchise was, and then it was removed from arcades because of the gore in it. I mean, because the thing is, like by 80s standards, okay, there was probably some more they were used to. By our standards, it's pretty tame because
Right.
most of the blood and stuff is not even red. I mean, there's a lot of it that's green and purple and other
It
colors.
was
So like that.
it was now correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I always kind of thought was that you know how you had like the kind of gross that was like Mad Balls and Garbage Pail Kids? It
Yeah,
was that kind of gross, but it was
yeah,
just more like where there was the violence that was added to it. You never saw
yeah.
the violence with the Mad Balls or the Garbage Pail Kids, you just saw the aftermath. It was gnarly. But
hmm
yeah,
And then, of course, the ending itself has a nice twist and is a bit controversial because it's not a happy ending. Spoiling a 40-year-old game here, but you eventually do find your girlfriend. You rescue her. You fight the final boss. Then the final boss wasn't quite finished yet. He possesses your girlfriend, and now you have to kill your girlfriend. So, and you finally, if you do win the game, then you are released from the home. The mask falls off of you, and you kind of collapse on the ground, and that's the end of the game. So it's like, did you
yeah.
just die? But then there was Splatterhouse 2, so I guess not.
And Splatterhouse 3. I know there were
And
3
Splatterhouse
yeah.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
And
the
there was
OG,
that 360, that Xbox 360 game that
oh, the
I
remake.
wanted to play that too, but yeah, I think it's hard to find now for some
It
reason.
is, yeah. I've never played the remake. I've always kind of wanted to as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, that OG it's hard to beat, man. It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
Next one here, and this, of course, I'm picking another groundbreaking classic here. The original Alone in the Dark for PC. What is considered the first 3D survival horror game in history.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, this basically takes great inspiration from the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. You are in a Victorian era home in like, well, I think it's like New Orleans or something like that. And it's basically spooky haunted house, demons, creatures, all sorts of stuff like that. But it's like more of a mystery sort of thing. Like
Yeah,
you're
it's
supposed to
very
like,
there's a detective story along with it.
yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah,
like a lot of Lovecraftian, Cthulhu, horror, genre stuff. Yeah, it's you do have some elements of combat in the game, but that's not the main objective.
right.
You're an investigator, basically, so you're supposed
Yeah.
to figure stuff out. But
Edward Carnby, is that the name?
yeah, sure is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
this came out in 1992, but this was a groundbreaking game because of just the way it looked. It was actually a spooky game. There's some
Oh
scary
yeah.
scenes, and they're still scary. Like I've gone back and watched some videos and stuff. There, yeah, like there's a scene that involves like a trunk. Like it's literally like there's you go into a room, it's empty. The only thing in the room is a trunk. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, like, and
Yeah,
the whole thing's like, do you open the trunk? How do you open the trunk? What's in the trunk? Will it kill you? Is it fun stuff? There's so many
right.
questions. But yeah,
That's like one of those things where it's like you go into the room and you just see, or you go into a room and you just see Hellraiser's puzzle box sitting there. Like,
yeah.
I ain't touching that, you know?
But it's like, oh, the door is locked behind me, so that means I have to touch it. Oh,
Yeah.
great. It's
Oh
like,
man.
oh, yeah. Yeah, Alone in the Dark. Of course, it's had multiple sequels. They've even done some movies.
Oh
Have you
man.
seen either of the Alone in the Dark films?
I've seen the Alone in the Dark with Christian Slater and Steven Dorff, directed by you
Movie
Bowl.
Bowl, the one where
Yeah.
what's her face? Tara
Tara
Reid.
Reid. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tara Reid was played a scientist in the film.
Yeah, she played a scientist, and it basically it tried to be Aliens, but like versus the Colonial Marines style, like military combat
Yeah,
versus HP Lovecraft things that,
and
yeah, it was not good. It
and the
was
only time you know that Tara Reid's character is a scientist because at the beginning of the movie they say she's a scientist.
right.
but,
Yeah.
but nowhere else in the rest of the film does she project or perform or
No,
even spout anything close to scientific.
no, no. She
It's
she is her role is basically to exist and to parrot lines back to either of the two male
and
leads.
and to wear tight t-shirts and look
Yeah.
sweaty and hot, and
Right.
she's meant to be the eye candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just rail on Tara because she's not alone in having terrible performances. The
Oh,
whole
yeah.
it's I
No,
mean it's
everybody just picked up a paycheck on that one. Nobody was proud of that
yeah.
movie at the end of the day.
No, yeah, yeah. I mean, even Christian Slater couldn't say he phoned that one in, man.
No.
He wrote a letter that one in.
Yeah.
uh, but it's one of those, because Yui Bowl has a long history of making just terrible movies based on mediocre video games, or sometimes
Yeah.
great video games that aren't even related to. Like the movie is barely is only similar in name to it.
Yeah.
Very much like Alone in the
I
Dark.
Yeah, but he still managed to get like Ron Perlman and Jason Statham in that Dungeon Siege movie that tried really hard to be Lord of the Rings, but wasn't.
On occasion, I mean, he's a, you know, Yui's a unique character.
Yeah.
So perhaps he's good.
Thankfully he's not doing movies anymore. He's out of that game.
Yeah, we can all breathe a little easier that one there. Next one here. This one may fall into the obscure category here, but this was a hit amongst my circle of people here when it came out. But for the original GameCube, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Man, okay, now see this game, I'd always heard about how great it was, right? But
Hmm.
the only person I knew with the GameCube is Brian, and I don't think he ever had this game. But I also think that personally, my association with this game for some reason, it was that it was some kind of kiddie children's game that was trying to
Oh,
be scary. And yeah, and I'm understanding my interpretation is incorrect now.
yeah.
So enlighten me, sir.
Okay, so it's a very convoluted plot because basically you are playing four different characters in four different time periods. Mostly you're in the modern day, and the character, I think her name is like Alessandra, I believe, or something, or Alexandra, or something like that. But then you've got like somebody that's like in like ancient BC, whatever. But basically, it's kind of playing on the whole gimmick of the eternal guardian. So like as someone who's always in place to fight the evil forces or whatnot, right?
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what this is. Basically, in the modern day, you're kind of seeing the new guardian be, brought up and tested and all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, you've got it's a very convoluted plot, four different kind of things going on. They do on occasion intertwine. You jump from time periods, whatever else. But as the game progresses, as things start getting stranger, because it's not like you're finding a linear story. Sometimes the next level you were jumping back, 300 years or something like that, but you still are progressing the game. So it's not like you're going to find like the last person at the last thing. So like it's
Yeah.
very unique in its play structure with how the game works. But it's very much kind of like a layout, kind of like a Resident Evil style, third person, combat, mystery, puzzles, sort of things like that.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
true selling point in this game, the reason why it's called Sanity's Requiem, is that as the game gets more intense, as the thing goes on, the game itself messes with you because aside from your life meter, you also have a sanity meter, and both can be, increased or decreased. And if your sanity meter starts going beneath your life meter, that's when the game starts messing with you. And what I mean by that, randomly the game will start glitching. You'll start seeing bugs crawling on the screen. It seems like your television changes channels on you. Suddenly, your saved game will start erasing. Like it'll go to the save page, and your game will start erasing. You're like, what? What is happening? No, no! Like you're at the end. Like literally, when you're at the end of the game, it does that stuff on you. It pulls a blue screen of death on you. The game, like the picture will start warping. It will turn upside down on you. This game drives you literally crazy.
Wow. That sounds awesome.
It is fascinating. It's like I said, the closer you get to the ending, the worse stuff gets.
I
And
wonder if I can emulate that. That sounds fun.
yeah, it was the unfortunate thing is that the company that put this out, like they had a previous hit, and then they're like, "Oh, we really like that. Give us a different game." So they come out with Eternal Darkness.
Right.
It is loved by the people who played it, but it was not a hit. And unfortunately, this is the last game that company produced, and they went under
Oh
after that.
man.
So, yeah, but it was a Canadian company. I can't remember. Was it Dungeness Games? I can't remember the name of the company,
Yeah.
but yeah, like so they had some previous success, but Eternal Darkness didn't do that well, which was unfortunate because the game was brilliant. All
And
right.
that sounds so much better than there was a Call of Cthulhu game that had a sanity tactic or a sanity meter built
Mm,
into it.
yeah.
But like I remember playing it and at one point, like Dagon, like the big sea god, comes out
Mhm.
and like you're on a boat. And so my character's got a shotgun, right? And his sanity's about nothing. And if you looked like dead at Dagon, that was it. So my dude turns over and like the sanity meter's at 0. So my guy like puts the shotgun in his mouth and click. And then like my character, yeah, he didn't have ammo, so then my character was like, "Oh, okay, well, he's cool." And then that saved me.
Oh, gotta love Cthulhu. All right,
Yeah,
getting to the more modern stuff here. We kind of referenced this one here a little bit. Oh, actually, we forgot one of yours. We'll have to go back one here. I forgot one of yours. But anyway,
I just thought we were cutting it for time, but
nope.
no, it's
We
all good.
I totally forgot. All right.
No,
The first Dead Space.
yes,
Absolutely brilliant. Survival horror in space. You are a part of a mining excavation operation. So your character's not military. He's a miner. You know, he's
hmm
got mining tools and stuff like that. One of them kind of works sort of like a gun, is technically a cutting tool, but that's basically about it. But yeah, you come apart across a derelict ship. Derelict ship has some sort of alien artifact that you call the marker,
hmm
and once it's on your ship, everything goes pear shaped. We're talking very Hellraiser Cthulhu esque, twisted monsters. Michelle always called them
Event Horizon style.
yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
Michelle always called them chicken monsters or chicken men or something like that because they kind of look, they kind of walk like chickens and did
Oh
this, and they
yeah,
have
yeah,
limbs and very warped features and sort of things like that. But the cool thing about this game, very much like Alien Isolation, this is a game that also messed with you because it used light and shadow and sounds against you. Uh,
yes,
so much to the point that the developers did psychological research on specific sounds and light textures and whatever else that you basically triggered, nightmares in people or universally scared people. So they made this game to scare you on
yes.
purpose.
Another
Um,
thing that I loved about this game too is that the way that it played with gameplay conventions. Because, like you said, your character is a miner. He's got the plasma cutter to start out with.
yeah,
Very early on, once you start to realize, once your character, Isaac, starts to realize what's going on, you find like the military component, you find all these assault rifles everywhere
yeah,
because the military, that's what what they've tried. And of course, like as a video gamer, you're like, sweet, this is the assault rifle. You pick it up, it is practically useless against these things because that's why there's so many of them. The military, yeah, it messes with you that way too. Like, so you have to you have to kind of play along with the game. And were you going to mention that Isaac is silent the whole time?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't. He doesn't talk. There's no interior dialogue, so you find everything out through like audio recordings or video recordings or stuff like that. So that's how the exposition is told. But yeah, your character himself, no dialogue.
yeah. But he has no dialogue, but he does make sounds whenever
Yeah,
he
he
faces
grunts.
the. Well, no, he grunts, but then like especially like if something attacks you or the bugs, and then his like the way he grunts, he's scared. It's not, yeah, it's not a doom trooper like get off of me. Like he's terrified,
Yeah.
and that's the sound that he makes just with his grunts and screams.
Hmm.
Yeah, it puts you along that same torture with him. Dead Space,
Yeah,
yeah, Dead Space is a amazing horror game. The remake came out on Game Pass, I think yesterday.
yeah, I
I
did.
can't. I've got that downloaded, so I can't wait to play that.
I've heard mixed things about the remake, so I'm willing to check it out, but I'm trepidatious at best about
Yeah,
it. But yeah,
that's why I wanted to wait. I didn't want to pay for it. I just wanted it to come on Game
mhm.
Pass.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, they did two sequels to the original.
Mm.
Two, I still enjoyed two.
Two was very, very good. Yeah,
There's some messed up stuff in two.
yeah.
Three is good, but three is much more actiony.
Three
And
is
there's
more
even
actiony, but three did a thing that I thought was pretty cool. Did you ever play it with a co-op?
oh
As
yeah, split
co-op?
the narrative thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you would if you were playing it with a buddy, especially like over Xbox Live or whatever, they would be seeing different things than you would.
Hmm.
And so their cutscenes would play out in a different way. And it
Yeah.
was yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you
Because
don't
two.
even notice at first because you just assume that you're watching the same thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like two distinctly different characters. They kind of work together, but they have two different stories. But yeah.
Mm.
So yeah. But yeah. But the original for me still it
Oh
still
yeah,
rocks.
the original
Uh,
is amazing.
let's backtrack and get the one we forgot of you here. But you've got a PC one yourself here.
Yes. Vampire the
Vampire the
Masquerade
Masquerade.
Bloodlines.
Okay.
This is a yeah, it's a vampire RPG based on the Vampire the Masquerade tabletop game,
Yep. The White Wolf
which
series.
yeah, from White Wolf, which if you'll remember is the game that they tried to cancel in the early '90s after Dungeons and Dragons because they wanted kids to play vampires, but then the game was just too complicated, so none of the kids really played it. It was just the goth kids, and and it's a fascinating and deep game, but the tabletop is. But
I've,
anyway,
I've, I've played many a LARP of both Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse. So
yeah, yeah, there you go, there you go.
yeah.
So the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines though is it's a first person RPG done in the Source engine, basically what Half Life and Half Life 2 were in.
Okay.
So it's that kind of thing. So like the level of interactability with the world and that style of that way of looking at things. You see it, but you get to basically create your own vampire character. You get to choose which house it comes from or which clan. I forgot exactly the terminology for Vampire the Masquerade.
The clans.
Clans,
Clans.
okay. Okay, and yeah, you basically and of course you can pick and there's all kinds of them, and they do have distinct gameplay differences.
Hmm.
So, the Nosferatu, for example, like they still have to abide by the Masquerade a lot more than, what one of the more normal looking vampires would. The Masquerade being the trying to keep the existence of the supernatural away from humans,
Right.
and
That's
that is
yeah. That's the whole point of all the because they did like White Wolf had a whole franchise. They were like they had
yeah.
Wraith and ghosts and all
World
kinds
of
of other
Darkness, I think it was called
right.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but basically that was the whole kind of gimmick was that still live and do your vampire, werewolf, or whatever things, but also still keep it away from the eyes of normal humans because either
Right,
they're going to be food or they're going to be a problem.
right. And so your character gets immediately turned and they don't know what to do with you. So you just kind of have to bargain your way out of the situation. So you're a newly birthed vampire navigating your way through this world, and there's treachery, there's characters that may not that they'll try and befriend you, but you may not necessarily want to be their friend. Or there's the way they give you quests. Of course, you'll need to feed as a vampire, so you'll have to figure it out. Do you want to feed off of humans, or maybe there's another way that you can get blood? There is the atmosphere in this game is another one too that is just drenched in atmosphere, and there's even a
Yeah.
level later on, the hotel level that's haunted. That
Oh
is
yeah.
one of the most scariest sequences in a game. Just the way that it is done, it's brilliant. And
Oh
if
sweet.
you can pick the game up on Steam now, and
Okay.
if you get a chance to play it with the fan patch because there was a lot of bugs that were or the game wasn't necessarily finished. It was
No.
playable, but it wasn't finished originally. But
Gotcha.
much like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the fan
Ouch.
community was able to get a lot of that unused data that was in the game and remake and finish it basically. And it's still continuing to be patched to this day, adding extra content to it. So,
It's
and there's
fascinating.
full blown expansions based off of Vampire using that engine. Yeah, you could spend hundreds of hours going off of just that game alone. And
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it's so cool.
when you get other like fan programmers involved and stuff in modding games, of course, I mean that was infamously they did with like the Wolfenstein, then later with Doom and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
Uh, yeah, how we haven't mentioned a Doom game here? I mean, I gotta give a
Well,
shout to
yeah.
Doom 3 being the scariest of the franchise.
Oh yeah,
Because
so leaned into the horror aspect of it, just with that
because
flashlight, and you either had flashlight or
yeah,
gun. That was your choice.
flat and there
Yeah,
was a lot of dark rooms, and so that was the thing. You got to choose flashlight or gun, and you
yeah,
couldn't have both.
yep,
So it's like
yeah,
either you couldn't see or you couldn't shoot.
yeah.
So
And yeah,
yeah,
the current Doom games as well, Doom 2016 and Doom
hmm
Eternal. Those are,
yeah,
oh man, yeah,
those are great. But basically,
yeah,
they're too fast to be scary. Because I mean, it's like
yeah,
the whole thing with Doom is not, that was a weird thing with Doom 3. It was much more of a kind of a hide and sort of thing like that. You still fought a lot,
right,
but
yeah,
there was a lot more hiding. Where it's like the Doom games are basically it's a shooter on crack, and you're having a really bad trip because you're seeing all these demons and stuff like that. But
yeah,
yeah, it's they're fast games. You're meant to play them. Like you were constantly moving, constantly running
right.
and gunning.
But
And
you're right though. Doom 3 is the survival horror Doom.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Again, they're
yeah,
trying to do something a little different, and
yeah.
they haven't done it since with the franchise, but
No, they have not done it. They have not made a bad Doom game. People will try and tell you
no,
that Doom was bad because it was different. Doom 3 was not a bad game at all. No, in no
no,
way, shape, or form.
no, yeah. But they,
Yeah,
like I said, they haven't done that method since, but yeah, it stands out amongst the franchise.
right.
So, but my final choice pick here, and of course, most recent game, but one of my and of course you know this, but one of my all
Oh,
time
yeah.
favorites, probably outside of the Resident Evil franchise, would be Alan Wake.
Yes.
Uh, this is a horror game for all the Stephen King, David Lynch fans.
Yes.
Uh, you play the titular character Alan Wake, who is a horror writer. He's like a Stephen King kind of guy, but he's currently kind of on a bit of a slump. So he and his girlfriend are driving to this beautiful like lakeside resort. Think like Gatlinburg with a big lake, sort of thing like that,
Or Twin Peaks.
or Twin Peaks, very much like Twin Peaks. But you go there to finish this novel that hopefully will kind of get you back in the game again here, get you out of your funk, whatever else. And things start going weird, and then your girlfriend gets abducted by some dark force. You don't entirely know what it is. And so the rest of the game, you are looking for your girlfriend, trying to piece together the mystery of things going on, but you're also finding pages of a book that is kind of very much like the John Carpenter in The Mouth of Madness, dictating the action as it's going on. And it's apparently written by you, but you have no memory of writing this book.
Yes.
Sort of stuff like that. Great twist ending at the end of the original. There was a kind of a pseudo sequel called American Nightmare, where they focused a little more on kind of a little more of the action, a little more of the puzzle, as opposed to the mystery sort of thing. Because you have a nail gun uh, through a better part of the game, but
Right, right.
the original Alan Wake, you do have a gun, you do shoot stuff, but the whole kind of gimmick is that people are possessed by this dark force, and so you have to use light to essentially break through that shell of darkness to be able to injure them. Because you
Right.
can't do anything until you break that shell. So light is very important in the game, whether it comes from flashlights, street lights, lamps, whatever the case may be. But light,
Car headlights, yeah.
headlights, yeah. But
Yeah,
light
they're
sources.
very, very good with light in this game.
Yeah, yeah. But it's very chapter. The original game, especially, is very chapter based. It kind of ends like an episode of a show. Like you'll have credits, and there's a song at the end of each episode, and
Yes.
they pick good songs. There's great mythology in the game because you got like
Mhm.
this like pair of old dudes that used to be in a rock band, and they had a very much kind of a heavy metal Led
Those 2
Zeppelin.
dudes are some of my favorite characters in video games. Yeah, you meet them very early on. Oh, they're so great.
I love it because like you think like they're going through dementia, but at the same time, like all their stuff they sang about back in the day was extremely prophetic and
Right,
like
yeah,
it almost instructional, like a handbook of what to do in these situations,
yeah.
sort of stuff like that. Whatever else, but yeah, just great stuff. They've recently released the remake for Alan Wake, which I thought was good. I did like it.
I enjoyed the remake. I played through that one too, and I'm actually probably going to replay the remake again before I play Alan Wake 2.
But then, of course, you have Alan Wake 2 is on its way. But the world of Alan Wake has expanded because there is another game in the franchise, Control.
Actually, 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the other
Uh
one?
Quantum Break is in. Yes.
No
Yeah. Oh,
way.
no, you didn't. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So,
Oh, I didn't
okay,
know about
so
Quantum Break.
yeah, so it's the Remedy expanded universe, right? And it actually
Okay.
goes even deeper. It goes Max Payne is included in it. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Remedy
Okay.
developed Max Payne. So you've got
Yeah.
the Alan Wake stuff, and then Quantum Break is the time travel game that it's you can only get it on Xbox right now.
Okay.
But it was the time travel game that had it had Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, and it had Sean Ashmore, I believe his name is the title character.
Okay.
But yeah, that takes like there of course there's time gets displaced, but
Mm-hmm.
there's various parts where you go up and or you go into this tent at a college recruiting thing where it's talking about what's going on, and they're showing these clips from this TV show, and it's Max Payne, and he's got the switch from Alan Wake.
Oh, man.
And yeah, and so yeah, and so and it's not as directly tied as Control is, but
Hmm.
it's definitely like
Part of the
you
universe.
can play
Okay.
Quantum Break. Yeah, you've got you got access to Quantum Break, don't you?
Probably,
Or
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so that is part of that. But now it's more of an
Okay.
action it's more of an action movie kind of deal.
Okay.
But since you're on board with the Remedy thing too, yeah, it's right in your wheelhouse, brother.
Okay. But Control is definitely part of the Allies. And it was one of those ones I didn't realize, but Control is kind of more of like if David Lynch directed an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because you've
See,
got this. What do
I'm
you think?
sorry. Well, okay, so I love Control almost because I see Control as a Stephen King Dark Tower game. Because
Okay.
mixed
Okay.
with the because of course you've got the main lady and she's got the gun, and
Hmm.
so that's the whole thing. And of course with the Dark Tower you have Roland the Gunslinger, and if later on as you get into the novels of the Dark Tower there is of course a time when they establish a corporation that deals with things. And
Sure.
of course, as tied with Remedy is with the Stephen King stuff, there's no way that a lot of those references were not intentional.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but that's how I always kind of looked at it too.
Yeah, but Control basically, you've got a character who is basically walks into this organization, which is basically kind of like they're paranormal investigators, other dimensions, sort of thing like that. So they're
Like
basically
what are those internet SCP there or the SCP protocol things, or it's like a big public if you hadn't heard, yeah, it's some kind of it's some series of letters, but it's basically this big like public domain kind of thing where like it's this organization that catalogs and chronicles supernatural creatures and entities. So like
oh
there's
okay,
like a Wikipedia page for it, and like you go and like SCP 6001 is this plague doctor that hasn't died in however long, or
okay,
and like users would write whole lore based off of that. That's a big influence of Control, like the SCP.
all right,
Yeah, it is SCP Foundation. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, check that out because you dig that. Some of that stuff is neat, but
Yeah, but yeah, I think but control was just until you kind of find out maybe like three-quarters of the way in the game that it's connected to the Alan Wake universe. But aside from that, just the game itself, I thought was brilliant because
oh yeah,
you have like some psychic powers. Like you said earlier, you've got this gun that's kind of like it's a gun, but it's not quite a traditional gun because it can kind of do other things and it's constantly changing shape.
yeah,
Um, the building you are in that you are basically is kind of like being corrupted by a dark force and more of kind of like an alien or an extra dimensional sort of thing
right,
is like changing the building as it's moving along. So like it's a very trippy. It is an action sort of game, but it's a very psychedelic, very just it's high concept kind of horror sort of
Yeah.
thing. But you know, it's difficult to describe, but very
It
interesting.
really, yeah. If you're a fan of Alan Wake, continue with remedy stuff,
Yeah,
because you won't be disappointed with it, and
yeah,
you'll be pleasantly surprised with what they've been able to do with the video game series.
absolutely. They're building an entire universe, and just when you start getting, when they start making all the connections to things, and like I said, just when the connection is made in Control that it's connected to the Alan Wake universe. When that scene starts happening, like, oh, thank
Right? Yeah.
you. It's and I didn't see that coming, and it's because my buddy Marvin, who recommended the game to me, didn't. I don't know if he didn't play Alan Wake or just didn't give that sort of thing like it. But he's like, oh yeah, it's a really cool game, real trippy. Check it out,
Right.
you like it. And then like so when that connection, and I come back and it's like, dude, and so he didn't know, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like.
Yeah, because they even teased the Alan Wake connection pretty early on, and with as you walk past, or one of the offices you walk through on the whiteboard,
Yeah.
there's some clues, and I always thought that nod was pretty sweet.
I know. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Tommy driving in there saying, "What's up, Coach Jesus?"
What's up?
What's up, Tommy? Oh, well, I tell you what, we have almost gone for a land speed record here with our length
Yeah.
of show here. But hey, you know what? It's like, you know, all the other hosts, keep to an hour, but it's like, who are we timing this for? It's like we can
Right.
talk
Yeah. I
about
mean,
this as
it's
far as
yeah.
we want here.
People want to watch it. They can come back later and watch what they didn't, or watch what they had to step out for, or whatever. But yeah, if you were down for it, I was down for it. If there's something I had to go do, I knew I could just be like, hey, I gotta go. But
I got to bounce. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
right. Yeah.
yeah. Taco Bell's open late, so we'll get some dinner later. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'll probably throw in a DoorDash order here in a minute after I let the dogs out, and yeah,
So the eternal question has been answered. Who let the dogs out? Seth.
me.
All right, brother. It has been a blast as always. Pleasure hanging
Yes,
with you.
thank you so
So
much again for having me. Always love doing
thank
the
you.
Fanatic Forum.
Oh, yeah. It's always great having you on here. We make a good team on here, and of course,
I
another
think
good
so.
team you guys have to check out, the Smokes and Road Beers podcast. You get to see
Please,
Seth. You get to see our buddy Bill Doris on here.
yes,
They talk all facets of pop culture. They even talk like serious real world issues that involve actual living people. Not like
yeah.
fictional things like I talk about. Stuff like that. Like they talk about
And if
like
you want to even come and tell us that we suck, like when we're talking about it, that's cool because we'd like to talk. Or yeah, tell us why we
yeah.
suck. We'd like to
Yeah,
discuss
but
it.
we could, be nice instead, and
Yeah.
say, hey, good job, guys, I like this, or
Well,
get discussions about things. But yeah, like I say, you guys talk all sorts of facets of things here. Multiple subjects per episode, which is kind of cool. I enjoy that,
well,
and then
thank
yeah,
you.
of course, you
Thank
guys
you.
have fun with your different drafts or AMAs or whatever else. So yeah, but 6:30 Eastern on Thursdays, Facebook and Rumble Live, and then of course later you guys are on YouTube.
Yep.
If YouTube plays nicely.
Yeah. I don't know how much farther we're gonna be into the YouTube because it's just been the past like 2 videos we've had to finagle to get up there. Even though it's. I'm sure if we had a couple of thousand viewers or whatever, it might be a different story. But you know how YouTube has always been with but anyway, we've been doing fine where we are, so yeah.
Cool. Well, I haven't had any trouble with him. So if you need me to talk to Mister YouTube, and tell him to or John YouTube, I don't know who runs the organization there, but
Yeah, I
he's
mean, I'm
got
not gonna lie, I have the feeling probably some of it does have something to do with how I might close a show of ours from time to time. I'm not oblivious to that fact, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you got some. Like I said, the episode you guys did 2 weeks ago, the way you closed it, and like Bill couldn't say anything. You just had this great final line. It's like, let's end there. We can't say anything else. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's perfect. So, sir, I will see you tomorrow for Collision.
Yes,
But other
sir.
than that, Have yourself a pleasant one. And folks, you guys have yourself a pleasant evening and a good weekend. And we will see you all next time on the Fanatic Forum. Take it easy.
Later.